I think the panel as a whole is a diverse group of experts who have expertise in various aspects of marine species. Some of them are more related to stock assessments, some are biologists. I work at the Indian Ocean Tuna Commission where I'm the science manager, and so I'm responsible for all the scientific data sets. So I have a long history of over 10-15 years working on shark species.
I was in charge of fish trade in Nigeria involving fish imports and exports, and for years now I've been involved in the FAO CITES panel.
I've been working with sharks for a lot of years first of all as a biologist to collect information on productivity, and laterally then in stock assessment and framing management advice for the EU and for national government in Ireland, and to a little extent also in ICAT in the Tuna Commission.
In the past 29 years, I work with SAFDEC, or Southeast Asian Fishery Development Center.
I often join the Tuna RFMO meeting. My specialty is pelagic shark stock assessment.
My specialisation is in international trade and fisheries management. I'm not a shark specialist. In this case, my role has been both as chair and then also to be the person who is commenting on the trade implications and listing implications of listing these species which have been proposed.
I think the foundational questions are if there are declines, serious declines that prove that there is the necessity to include the species in CITES, and also if there is a risk because of the productivity and the fisheries are driving the species, obviously international trade, into a problem.
We have to know what level of exploitation, what level of fishing mortality a species can withstand. And in the case of sharks, it's usually low, but not always. We have some very good examples in Europe of species of sharks that have responded quite well to fishing mortality. So that's the key foundational question. It's the one that I'm most interested in as a stock assessment scientist and a biologist.
The productivity of the species is so important when we're assessing these proposals, because the productivity determines how quickly and how resilient a population is to exploitation. So with regards to the short-fin mako productivity, it was relatively simple and straightforward to reach a consensus on what the productivity of the species were. The overwhelming majority of the information available to us shows that it has a low productivity. There are a few dissenting studies which show that it might have a medium productivity, but even then, they're all on the lower spectrum.
The nomenclature affects us in West Africa, especially Nigeria, because when, like I remember when I first saw the document in December on wedgefish, I sort of said, oh, we don't have wedgefish in Nigeria, but when I opened the document, I said, yeah, this is ray, this is big ray.
China has 244 species of shark and rays. How they was used remain unknown for many, many years. My student and I travel along the coastline area of China mainland, and we visit about more than 30 fish markets.
The trends in decline are very important because we need to know where the population currently stands in respect to where it probably would be if it had never been fished. This is important to determine how much of a decrease in the population that these species have been experiencing. The main challenge for mako with regard to the population trends is that in many oceans there are data deficiencies.
It's really quite difficult to make an evaluation of how CITES listing in recent conferences of the parties is reflected in changes in international trade or changes in practices, largely because of being a usual lag in legislation, regulation, implementation, and then the collection of trade data.
For example, in my country, unfortunately, there are some issues with unreported trade that has been rise since the inclusion of the species. It's very difficult to trace for example, fins.
When we're talking about wet fish, we have to know their behavior and also their habitat first. So these are quite very important if you want to come up with any management measure.
In terms of reaching consensus between the participants in the panel, I guess the key feature is clear and unquestionable data, which is difficult to come by. The clearer the data, the easier it is to reach consensus about several key and important points. When we don't have clear data, or there are trends that are maybe from very localized studies when you're trying to apply it to a global population, this can result in dissenting opinions. And so it needs to be clearly thought out, it needs to be clearly discussed, and in most cases consensus is being reached because we're letting the data speak for itself effectively.
The key aspect that needs consensus is in relation to the listing criteria. There could be a range of opinion, and we can reflect that range of opinion on the other aspects, but the core aspect is the science.